Hey everybody, Lawrence here with Dirty Basement Terrain, coming at you with another one after a very long absence. And for that, I do apologize, but life got in the way. I had to move, as you can see, whole new setup, and no longer in the basement. But I'm not changing the name. Okay, so for my first video at the new location, I got a Golden Demon. Yes, this is a legit Games Workshop Golden Demon trophy. Yeah, unless you're an insanely idiotic, good and idiotic mini painter, you ain't getting one of these. Unless, of course, you have a friend who has has a few of them, and it needs to clear out some space, and he gives you one. So I'm going to take this extremely hard to acquire statue and really screw it up. But before I actually show you the process of what I'm going to do to this, I want to give a big shout out to all my patrons, especially being that you guys stuck with me throughout the absence. I cannot thank you enough, so I really do appreciate you. All right, guys, without any delay, let's screw up a Golden Demon trophy.
I mean, first of all, the thing I want to do is get rid of this plate. Wasn't exactly sure how it was attached, so I was like, yeah. Okay, that actually came off relatively easy. Just a couple little strips, and you can see this is a legitimate plate, so this is not a joke. Of course, now I want to get rid of these letters. I could have gone with Dremel to just grind this off, but it was rather late at night when I was doing this, and I didn't want to wake anybody up, so I just decided to try and cut it off, and it just wound up being a pain in the butt, because this is made out of some kind of resin, the statue is. So it's just a matter of clipping away, cutting away, just trying to get those raised letters off, because I don't want them there. I want to start working on the base for what I'm doing. I have these 5x5 squares that are about a ½ inch thick that I cut up, and now I just want to glue them together using some hot glue here to make a larger 10x10, the bottom part of it anyway. It's just a matter of hot gluing the 4 squares together to get the 10x10 square that I want. Now that I got my 10x10 square on, I have these little 1x1 tiles that I made up a long time ago and just threw in a bag. And I want to start tiling up this base, but I want to do it in a diamond pattern. So it's just a matter of hot gluing it on and trying to get this first row lined up. The first row is the one you got to be really careful with, trying to get it lined up right, or otherwise it's going to throw the whole thing up, the pattern off throughout the rest of the tile that I'm making here. So it's just a matter of being careful, hot gluing each one on. Then once you get this first row on like I'm doing here, the rest of them will go on with relative ease. You still have to take some care because not each little tile is exact the right size, but as you can see, it gets done really quick. Now there is that little excess on the edge here, so it's just a matter of flipping it over and cutting it off real quick. And it goes flat to the larger size base. So quick, easy, done. Now I don't want perfectly nice tiles because I want to ruin this thing all, just kind of make it look old and beat. So I'm going to use this pencil and just start carving cracks in the various tiles. and just to give it a more beat up, worn appearance. I said, I'm going to make it look pretty. Sort of. Now I have a second tile here that I'm doing that I already did all the tile work like I did with the larger one, but since it's sitting on that half-inch chunk, I want to make it look like it's the tiles are it's not one solid piece but several blocks. So I'm just putting in some lines here to give that appearance. It's a relatively quick process. Just use the pencil and carve in some lines to make it look like there's several blocks sitting underneath there instead of just the one big slab. Now, as you can see, I've already traced out where the smaller 5x5 is going to sit on the larger 10x10. And now it's just a matter of slapping some hot glue. I did the tracing so I would know where to put the hot glue and to make it easier, just so it would all fit right. Little pre-planning, but hey, it'll work out in the end. Now, I'm just going to take the Golden Demon trophy and jam it inside this plastic bag because I want to keep the little pieces from the next step together. And use a hammer that's older than I am and just start whacking it in certain spots. I don't want to go for absolute destruction. I just want to break pieces apart, give it a couple good whacks, break it up, and just I'm actually really enjoying this part because I don't know. There's something that made me really enjoy destroying a hot trophy like this. And now that it's all beat up, pull out the extra pieces. And like I said, I put it in the bag so small little pieces wouldn't fly all over the place. So I have every last chunk and didn't have to look for anything. And I want to weather the stones a little bit more, so I'm just going to use the foil ball technique and roll it over and give it some pits and whatnot. Quick, easy. Of course, I used a little chunk from a foam plate, and I'm going to make a little like plate or name thing for the front of the base of the trophy itself. I said just use a pen to draw out some lines and do some different things to this. Just I'm using the pen to make indentations into the foam. Line it up. He's like, okay, I got the right size. Of course, I have a little message written out in runes that I want to actually draw out into the plate that I'm going to be eventually placing on here. Y'all can try and figure out what it says. But it's just that I had written it down on a piece of paper previously, and now I'm just kind of going about how it's going to be on the foam itself. of course, this is a real simple quick piece. A little bit of glue, brush it onto the front of the trophy base, and then I'm going to slap the foam plate on there. This still looks too perfect and nice for what I want, the look I want, so I'm just going to start carving chunks off and then beating this up, damaging it. I'm even going to cut off chunks of the bottom of the larger 10x10 piece just to make it look all beat up and just nasty. Almost in an explosive way, I guess. And also want to make sure the chunks from the trophy itself will fit on the smaller pieces and whatnot. But like I said, I'm just trying to beat this up so it looks old, uncared for, and just destroyed. Now, I'd already hot glued the different chunks of the trophy down, which I forgot to record. Apologize for that. But here, I'm just using some drywall spackle, and I'm just adding a little bit of like mounds, just to even break up the nicety of, the tiles and whatnot. And then I'll just add some construction sand on just for some grit on top of the drywall spec. Just, as I said, these are all just like eventually going to be dirt mounds, and I'm just trying to make it look old and beat up and weathered and not taken care of at all. And again, I'm going to be using some glue here, and some of in different parts of the tiles, it's a little wide, so I'm going to add some sand into that, and just add sand or dirt in the different places. Just again, this is an old, abandoned ruins, and I just want to just make it look old and nasty. Of course, here I'm using some black Mod Podge. I want to protect all the foam, give it a little bit of extra coating with the Mod Podge. Like I said, and also black bombing it out, almost like a primer. So, just a quick, make it slop. No need to be completely neat, but I'm keeping away from the statue chunks. Now here I'm using an airbrush to primer up the statue pieces. I didn't want to use the Mod Podge in that because it would hide the details. You can use like a brush on primer or any kind of black paint, or not paint at all. That's up to you. Now I want to start painting all the stone areas, and I'm using a dark blue gray. I like the dark blue gray. I just like the tone it has better than just a straight up dark gray. And just give it a base coat of all the stone areas. And of course here I'm using like a medium gray and just giving all the stone areas an overbrush. I'm trying to go for like 75-85% coverage, leaving like even the dark cracks and recesses alone. And of course here now I'm going to be using a light gray and just doing a quick dry brush over all the different areas just to highlight all the cracks and crevices and just to highlight everything. Now, of course, the statue parts need to be painted. Now, right, for a base coat, I'm going to be using like a copper color. At least I think that's what it was. And try and get as much coverage on this as I can. Of course, I'm trying to be careful to keep all the metallic covers off the stone area, so I'm using a small brush to get around the edges, and then I can just go nuts and be sloppy and get everything else. But again, this is just like a dark copper color as a base coat. And of course, here I'm using a gold. I don't remember which one. Pause it if you want to know the exact gold color, but I just give it an overbrush over the copper. I said I want this to be kind of like a bronze or copper statue, but with what I'm gonna, the steps, the gold just, it will make it pop a lot. The details pop a lot more. So like I said, this is just the mid-tone overbrush over all the statue pieces. And of course now I'm going to be using a really bright gold color and doing a quick light dry brush to highlight all the details and just to make everything pop a lot more than what it already is. And of course now I'm going to be using a homemade dark brown acrylic wash, and this is going over everything. The statue pieces, the stone part work. This is just to give it a dirty, grungy look. Again, this is supposed to be a ruins area, and it's supposed to be abandoned. Old ruin areas are not, spick and span clean. It's going to be dirty, nasty. Now I want to bring the highlights back up, so I'm just dry brushing the bright gold on real quick just to make all the details and stuff pop a lot more. It looks cool, and it really winds up helping. And of course now with the stones I'm going to use the light gray and just to make all the highlights and details pop a lot more for what I've done. Now I'm using it. There are several areas where I have put that sand where I want it to be have a dirt appearance. So I'm going to use a dark brown and give it all those little different areas a base coat with a dark brown. And I'm using a medium, nutmeg brown, medium brown, just to overbrush all the different areas that I had done the dark brown on quick. And then I use a light brown. I think this is light mocha, and give all the dirt areas a quick highlight dry brush. Quick, easy, done. This is a something oxide from Games Workshop. There are other manufacturers that do paints that do the same thing, but I want to have this have an oxidation look to it, so it's just a matter of painting it on and then wiping it off the raised areas, so it looks like it just all ran down into the cracks. I'm using Q-tips, but you can use paper towels. I eventually, for the larger piece, I went to a clean rag that I wiped it off with. But the whole point of this paint is paint it on, wipe it off, and all the recessed areas will have this green paint, and it'll look like exactly like an oxidized chunk of metal will that's been left alone in the rot. And of course, I'm using a homemade moss paste that I make using some mixed herbs and different flockings. And it's just a matter of basically painting it on to wherever you think it would look good. It's just a matter of, I put it on until, okay, yeah, that looks good. Then once it's on, I'll use some fine yellow flocking and just sprinkle it on. Now, I want to have some dirt areas and there are the cracks and whatnot, so I'm using some homemade pigment powder and just going along cracks and different crevices and just brushing it in quick. And this is a simple step, but it gives like your ruined areas and terrain. It makes it pop just a little bit for something that's so easy to do. And the pigment powders, if you make your own, it's not that it's very relatively cheap, and it looks as good as the pre-made pigment powders. It's not hard. I even did a video on how to make it. So, but it's a matter of just brushing in the cracks, crevices, where corners cut, where two pieces come together, where dirt would gather. And I also put it around the dirt areas to just make it look like it fade into the stone a little bit more evenly. But again, it's such an easy, simple little step. And honestly, once you already have the powder made, it takes minutes. Now, to lock the powder in place, I'm just going to spray it down with some isopropyl alcohol. It'll cut down on the dusty look, but it'll keep it from smearing off. And of course, I'm using my go-to for grass tufts, Huge Miniatures. I'm not sponsored, I just really like their tufts. And just put grass tufts in various spots and anywhere I think it would look good. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I was going to do a few more things, but then once I put the grass tufts on, I was like, yeah, that's enough. Anymore, and it would just be too much. And I can honestly say I'm really happy with how this all turned out. It looks good. I think it looks good. I'm happy with it, and I did enjoy destroying. I honestly, my favorite part was just taking a hammer to an actual golden Games Workshop golden demon statue. Something very therapeutic about that. Hey everybody, if you made it this far, it means you watch again. As always, I greatly appreciate. Again, sorry for the long absence, but hey, like I said, life got in the way. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It was fun, and I did take a great deal of pleasure taking a hammer and just whacking that golden demon statue and turning it into ruins. But again, it was fun to make. It was enjoyable, and if you can figure out what this says, leave a comment down below. Love to see what you guys think. As always, guys, again, I can't thank you enough. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. If you want to get a hold of me directly, come to the Discord. I would love to see what you guys are making. Give, give me some ideas to steal. And again, as always, guys, thank you so much for sticking around with me. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, remember when you're making your terrain, whether beating up an old trophy or whatever you want to make, always remember the only person you got to worry about is you, because it's your terrain.